Hey everybody, Dan here with Thin Feather for Outfitters. Today we're looking at the Daniel Defense H9. Daniel Defense bought the patent and redesigned the handgun, making it more reliable than the Hudson H9. We're going to talk a little bit about the history, more about the pistol itself, so let's do it. In 2017, Hudson introduced the H9 at SHOT Show. I was there. It was the biggest thing going at SHOT Show. Everybody ran to this little booth on the lower level to check out the H9. The H9 had a big fat forend, a 1911 grip angle, and then 2 years later they filed for bankruptcy. It didn't work out for them. Daniel Defense bought the patent and they released the DD-H9 in early of 2024. And here it is. They redesigned it. They made it better. They made it more reliable. And we're going to talk about it. Now, it ships with 3 15-round magazines. It remains a 1911 grip angle. And they said they redesigned the back strap because many users complained about the back strap with the H9. I didn't notice when I handled it, but apparently that was an issue. Extended the beaver tail, and they made a dual recoil spring. We're going to take a look at that. If we look at the grip itself, Daniel Defense says this is G10. To me, it feels like just another polymer side panel grip, but perhaps it's G10. I don't know. And then we have the front strap with some texturing there, extended beaver tail. Nice overall feel. Love the 1911 grip angle. And the trigger it has the trigger tab in there on the top of the trigger. We'll show clear here. And then it has a very smooth break. It is striker fired with a reset right there. Very short. Extremely short reset. Now the frame is aluminum and that keeps the weight down a little bit, but it's not a lightweight handgun. Actually, it has a 4.3-inch barrel and, aluminum frame and a big fat forend. The Hudson forend was actually fatter. It actually went down a little bit more. So Daniel Defense redesigned it. And they had a pick rail right there. Forward serration. The sight system is serrated black in the rear and a green fiber optic front sight. They made it optics ready. And it will ship like this. And I'll show you what's in the case. And then we'll talk about the optic system. Very nice case, says Daniel Defense. Primarily known for rifles and AR pistols and things like that. And here we've got the manual, a lock. Here's a warranty QR code. And an additional 2 magazines. So that's what's in the case. What is absent here? Well, there is no optics plate. You have to purchase the optics plate separately. It's available with an RMR footprint, a shield footprint, a doctor, and one more, I believe. But shield and RMR seem to be the most popular. Delta Point Pro is pretty popular as well. And the optic plate will cost the buyer of this handgun $59. So the MSRP on this is $1,300. So it is not a cheap handgun by any means. You get an optic plate, you're looking at $1,359. So it's available to the buyer who really wants low recoil. And that's the concept with this fat forend. So we're going to take a look at that. Now you see those tabs right there? Those you have to pull down. It does take some hand strength. I will mention it takes some hand strength. We want to pull the trigger and pull these down. And I have to squeeze as hard as I can to get those pulled down. And then off comes the slide from the frame. The aluminum frame, there's a look at the internals there. And one of the things Daniel Defense did was put a dual recoil spring on there. Now take note, the bottom of the recoil spring guide rod base has this little lip right there. See that? Okay, and then that actually sits lower. That is said to reduce the recoil. And then here is the 4.3-inch barrel. Actually 4.28 inches. The difference is minuscule, so we'll say 4.3. And there's a look at the slide. And then you can see the the way that cutout appears, much lower than we're used to seeing on most handguns. And that's the draw here. Lower recoil, easier shooting, less muzzle rise, and more accuracy. That is the claim. And then putting it back together, you have to put that, it's got a little tab there. You want to make sure that tab sits in the proper spot or it will not work. And it has to be pretty perfectly seated. And I think that's close. That should be close enough. Then we just slide it back on. And there we go. Right back in action. So you're looking at the only real handgun. Daniel Defense has pistols, but this is the only real handgun they have. It's the H9. It was a big hit in SHOT Show 2024. I was there. A lot of people surrounding wanted to see what Daniel did, because when Hudson actually filed for bankruptcy in 2019, people were wondering, now what? Now, we have the gun, it's not serviceable, it isn't available for parts, and then Daniel Defense took over, and they claim they made a much better handgun. Very light trigger, very short reset, optics, fiber optic here. Not a bad handgun. It feels great in the hand, and I imagine the recoil. Now, I did shoot the Hudson H9, and it was pretty nice. I didn't notice a great difference between other handguns, but Daniel Defense says that they have it right, and here it is. $1,300 MSRP. You're looking about $1,000 at the Fin, so check it out if this one interests you. Once again, Dan here with Fin Feather for Outfitters. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.